The old library smelled like dust and forgotten things. Tae-sung walked between shelves that reached toward the ceiling, his fingers trailing across ancient data tablets. Most historians thought he was wasting his time. They called him the myth chaser behind his back. But Tae-sung didn't care. He knew something was hidden in these old records, something important. He had been searching for 3 years now. The Galactic Coalition controlled thousands of worlds, and their history went back almost 10,000 years. But there were gaps, strange empty spaces in the timeline that nobody talked about. Around 3,000 years ago, something happened. Something big. And then it was like someone had erased it from every official record. Tae-sung found the tablet by accident. It had fallen behind a shelf, probably knocked there decades ago. The label said it was a shipping manifest from a mining colony. Boring stuff. But when he opened it, he found something else hidden inside. Someone had used the manifest as a cover, hiding real information underneath. The text was old and hard to read. It talked about a species called humans. According to the tablet, humans had no thick skin like the WarHFY. They had no telepathy like the Mindel. They couldn't see in the dark like the Krill. They were weak and soft with bodies that broke easily. But the tablet said something strange. It said humans were the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. Tae-sung read about how humans conquered their home system in just a few hundred years. They built ships from metal and dreams. They split atoms for power. They walked on their moon before they even had computers in their homes. The tablet called them void walkers because they went into space when everyone said it was impossible. But the strangest part was why humans fought wars. The tablet listed wars humans had with each other. They didn't fight just for food or land. They fought for ideas, for freedom, for honor, for revenge. Sometimes they fought because someone insulted them. Other species surrendered when they knew they would lose. Humans fought harder when defeat was certain. The tablet ended with a single line that made Tae-sung's blood run cold. The dispersion removed the human threat. May we never speak of this again. Tae-sung took the tablet to his supervisor the next morning. Director Calvin was a WarHFY, tall and covered in thick gray scales. He looked at the tablet for maybe 10 seconds before handing it back. Another myth, Calvin said. These stories are common. Every culture has legends about warrior races from the past. It's fantasy, Tae-sung. Not history, but what about the dispersion? Tae-sung asked. That's in the timeline gap. 3,000 years ago, something happened. Many things happened 3,000 years ago. The coalition was young. Records were lost in various conflicts. It happens. Calvin's voice was patient, like he was talking to a child. Let this go. Focus on real history. But Tae-sung couldn't let it go. He started finding more pieces. A medical file that mentioned human anatomy. A star chart with a yellow star marked as quarantine zone. A military report about a battle tactic called human wave assault. Each piece was small and easy to ignore alone. Together they painted a picture. Humans were real. They had been part of the galaxy. And then they vanished. On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Hae-won stood on the bridge of the Coalition warship, Eternal Vigilance. She was reviewing patrol routes when the sensor officer called out, "Commander, we're getting strange readings from Sector 447. Hae-won walked to the sensor station. Define strange. Energy signatures that don't match any known species or technology. They appeared 20 minutes ago at the edge of the sector. Now there are more of them." Hae-won pulled up the display. The readings showed ships, dozens of them. They had appeared from nowhere, which should be impossible. Coalition sensors could detect incoming ships from several light years away. These had just appeared. Could it be a sensor malfunction? She asked. No, Commander. 3 different sensor arrays are showing the same thing. And there's more. The energy signatures are increasing. Whatever they are, they're powering up. Hae-won felt something she rarely felt. Worry. She had been in the Coalition military for 30 years. She had fought pirates and rebels. She had seen combat in the border wars, but she had never seen anything like this. Send a message to Coalition Command, she ordered. Tell them we have unknown contacts in Sector 447. Request instructions. The message took 6 hours to reach Command and get a response. By then, the unknown ships had moved deeper into Coalition space. They were heading toward Research Station Gamma 9, a small facility with only 47 scientists. The orders came back simple and clear. Investigate and make contact. Use caution. HFY took her ship toward the unknown contacts. As they got closer, the sensors got better readings. The ships were big, almost as large as Coalition cruisers. Their design was strange, all sharp angles and heavy armor. They looked built for war, not exploration. "Try hailing them," HFY said. The communication officer worked his console. "No response, Commander. They're not answering on any standard frequency. Keep trying, and ready the weapons just in case." They reached Research Station Gamma 9 12 hours later. The unknown ships were already there, holding position around the station. HFY's ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately scanned the area. "The station appears intact," the sensor officer reported. "But I'm not reading any life signs." "What do you mean?" HFY asked. "The station is empty, Commander. All the scientists are gone." HFY felt her scales tighten against her skin. "Gone where? Are they on those ships?" "I don't know. The ships aren't letting us scan them. Some kind of blocking technology." "Commander!" The navigation officer pointed at the main screen. "One of the unknown ships is moving. It's coming toward us." Everyone on the bridge tensed. HFY kept her voice calm. "Battle stations. Shields up, but do not fire unless fired upon." The unknown ship stopped a few kilometers away. It was massive up close, covered in weapons and armor plating. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the communication console beeped. "They're sending a message," the officer said. "It's not in any Coalition language. Wait. The computer is trying to translate." "Got it?" A voice came through the speakers. It sounded human, if the old tablets were right. "Deep and cold. We are reclaiming what was stolen from us. Do not interfere." "This is Commander HFY of the Coalition ship Eternal Vigilance," she said. "You are in Coalition space. Identify yourselves and explain your actions." Another long pause. Then the unknown ship turned and headed back to the others. All the ships began moving away, leaving the research station behind. HFY sent a team to the station. They found it empty but undamaged. All the equipment was still there. The scientists' personal belongings were still in their quarters. But every person was gone, vanished without a trace. In one of the station's labs, they found something that made HFY call for Taesung immediately. Carved into a metal wall, deep cuts made by some kind of laser or plasma tool, were words in an ancient language. When Taesung arrived 2 days later, his hands shook as he translated the message. It was in Old Earth Standard, the language from his tablets, the language of humans. The message was simple and terrifying. "We have returned." The first battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, HFY's fleet had won. They destroyed 8 human ships and forced the others to retreat. Coalition casualties were light. Only 2 ships damaged, 47 crew members killed. By any measure, it was a clear victory. But HFY didn't feel like she had won anything. She stood in the medical bay looking at the injured. One of her crew members, a young WarHFY named Kelvon, had been pulled from a damaged section of the ship. He was alive but shaking. "They're insane," he whispered. "Commander, they're completely insane." "What happened?" HFY asked. "Their ship was dying. Engines dead, weapons offline. We thought they would surrender. Instead, they rammed us. Just flew straight into our hull at full speed. The impact killed their entire crew and almost breached our reactor." HFY had watched it happen. The human ship, burning and breaking apart, had used its last power to crash into a Coalition cruiser. It made no sense. The battle was already lost. Surrender would have saved lives. But the humans chose to die while causing as much damage as possible. "They didn't even try to save themselves," Kelvon said. "They were screaming something through their communication channels." It sounded like they were happy. Across the Coalition, reports came in from other battles. Humans were fighting everywhere at once. Small strike teams hit supply stations. Raiders attacked merchant ships. Guerrilla fighters appeared on border colonies, then vanished before reinforcements arrived. Every report said the same thing. Humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't care about survival. They cared about causing damage. Dongwu was the Coalition's best military strategist. He had planned campaigns against pirates and rebels. He had won the border wars with minimal casualties. Now he sat in command center staring at tactical displays and nothing made sense. "They shouldn't be winning," he said to his assistant. "Look at the numbers. We have more ships, better technology, larger supply lines. Every simulation says we should have crushed them by now." "But we haven't," his assistant said. "No, because they don't follow any logical pattern. They attack when they should defend. They defend positions that have no strategic value. They waste resources on gestures that accomplish nothing militarily but terrify our soldiers. Dongwu pulled up footage from a recent battle. A human ship, completely surrounded, had broadcasted a message before self-destructing. The message was a poem about sacrifice and honor. The explosion damaged 3 coalition ships. What kind of species writes poetry before committing suicide? Dongwu asked. On a border colony called Velthos, the colonists woke to find human soldiers in their streets. But the soldiers didn't attack. They were putting up posters and broadcasting messages. Sang Min led this operation. He was tall for a human with quick eyes and a calm smile. He didn't look like a warrior. He looked like someone's friendly neighbor. That made him more dangerous. Citizens of Velthos, his broadcast said, we are not here to harm you. We are here to tell you the truth. 3,000 years ago, the coalition committed genocide against humanity. They erased us from history. Ask your leaders why. Ask them about the dispersion. Ask them why your history books have a gap 3,000 years ago. By the time coalition forces arrived, Sangmin and his team were gone. But the damage was done. The colonists were asking questions. Some were even protesting, demanding answers from the coalition government. Sangmin did this again and again. He never stayed to fight. He just spread information and left. He called it psychological warfare. The coalition called it terrorism. Either way, it was working. In the medical stations behind the front lines, Mi-sun worked without stopping. She was a human combat medic, trained to keep soldiers alive under any circumstances. What made her unusual was that she treated everyone. Coalition soldiers who were captured and wounded found themselves being helped by this small woman with gentle hands and fierce eyes. She yelled at human soldiers who didn't want her wasting supplies on enemies. "A wounded person is a wounded person," she said. "We're not animals. We don't let people die when we can save them." Some coalition soldiers, after being treated by Mi-sun, refused to fight humans again. They had been told humans were monsters, but monsters didn't fix broken bones and share their medicine with enemies. 4 months into the war, both sides had won and lost battles. The coalition controlled more territory, but at a horrible cost. Every meter of space was paid for in blood. Every victory felt empty. Taesung had been traveling to different worlds, documenting what was happening. He interviewed soldiers, civilians, and commanders. He recorded everything. Someone needed to remember this war honestly, not the way it would be taught in history books. He found Haiwan on a supply station, reviewing battle plans. She looked older than when he had last seen her. "The war was aging everyone. How are you?" he asked. "Tired," she said. "We just retook Station Beta 4. 15 human soldiers held it against 300 of our troops for 6 days. When we finally broke through, we found they were out of ammunition. They were fighting with metal bars and rocks. They still wounded 30 of our people before we stopped them. Did any surrender? 3 did. The rest fought until they were killed or too injured to move. The last one, a woman named Bora, was shot 4 times and still tried to attack us. Our medic saved her life. Know what she said when she woke up? Why did you bother? I would have died happy. What do you do with people like that? Taesung wrote it all down. I've been researching human history more. They've always been like this. They have a concept called honorable death. Some human cultures believed dying in battle was better than living in shame. That's crazy, Haiwan said. Maybe. But it makes them incredibly dangerous. They're not afraid of death the way we are. A message came through from Coalition Command. Haiwan read it and closed her eyes. They want me to lead an attack on a human colony world. Full invasion. They think if we hit their civilians, the military will have to pull back to defend them. Will you do it? I have to. It's an order. She looked at Taesung. Will you come with me? Someone should document this honestly. The colony world was called New Earth by the humans. It wasn't their original home, but a planet they had settled during their exile. 2 million humans lived there, mostly families of soldiers. The coalition fleet arrived expecting an easy target. They were wrong. Every human on the planet who could hold a weapon was fighting. Old people, teenagers, even children who looked barely 10 years old. They didn't have military training or good equipment, but they fought with the same crazy determination as their soldiers. Wu Sung commanded the defense. He was a special forces officer, trained in guerrilla warfare. He turned the entire planet into a trap. Every building could explode. Every street corner had a sniper. Every friendly face might be a bomb carrier. Coalition troops landed and immediately started taking casualties. A medic would approach a wounded civilian, only to discover the civilian was wired with explosives. A squad would enter an empty building and the building would collapse on them. Children would run up to soldiers and sometimes they were just scared kids, but sometimes they were carrying grenades. "This is hell," one coalition soldier told Tae-sung. "How do you fight people who use children as weapons?" But Tae-sung, filming everything, saw another side too. He saw human parents pushing their children toward coalition soldiers, begging them to take the kids somewhere safe. He saw human fighters stepping between civilians and gunfire. He saw Mi-sun, the medic working in a makeshift hospital, treating coalition wounded with the same care as humans. The battle for New Earth lasted 3 weeks. The coalition won, but at terrible cost. 30,000 coalition soldiers died. Almost all the human defenders were killed or wounded. The civilian casualties were horrible. Hae-won walked through the ruined capital city after the fighting ended. Bodies lay everywhere, human and coalition both. She found Woo-sung in the remains of a command post. He was badly wounded but alive. "Why didn't you evacuate the civilians?" she asked him. "We tried," Woo-sung said. Blood stained his uniform. "We sent transport ships out. Your fleet destroyed most of them. You didn't want anyone escaping." Hae-won felt sick. It was true. Command had ordered all ships leaving the planet destroyed. They said it was to prevent military assets from escaping. But mostly it had been civilians on those ships. "You could have surrendered," she said. "Saved lives. And then what? Go quietly into camps. Let you erase us again? We learned that lesson 3,000 years ago. If humans are going to die, we die fighting. At least then we're remembered." Tae-sung recorded the conversation. He recorded everything. The bodies, the destruction, the crying survivors. He recorded coalition soldiers helping human wounded. He recorded human fighters who used their last strength to protect children. He recorded it all because someone had to. The footage was leaked somehow. Within days, it was spreading across the entire coalition. Citizens saw what war with humanity really meant. They saw their soldiers struggling against an enemy that would never surrender. They saw human families dying for abstract concepts like honor and remembrance. Protests began on dozens of worlds. People didn't want this war. They hadn't known about the dispersion. 6 months into the war, neither side was winning. The coalition controlled more territory, but humans controlled the narrative. Every battle showed the galaxy what humanity was capable of. Every human death became a story of courage or sacrifice. The coalition looked less like defenders and more like bullies. Jin-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, reading casualty reports. 43,000 humans dead, another 60,000 wounded. Those were military numbers. Civilian deaths were much higher. New Earth alone had cost them 20,000 civilian lives. "We can't sustain this," his second officer said quietly. "Our population is 1/10 the size of the coalition. Every loss hurts us more than it hurts them." "I know," Jin-ho said, "but what choice do we have? Surrender means going back into the dark. It means accepting that our people died for nothing." Before the officer could respond, alarms rang through the ship. "Unknown distress signal," the communication officer reported. "It's coming from the neutral system of Paxlar. Multiple ships in distress." "Whose ships?" Jin-ho asked, both sides. "Coalition and human. And civilian vessels, too. Paxlar was a neutral trading hub. No military from any side was supposed to be there. It was sacred ground, protected by ancient treaties. But something had gone wrong. "Get us there," Jin-ho ordered. Full speed. When they arrived, Jin-ho saw chaos. A solar flare had hit the system without warning. The star had thrown out massive amounts of radiation. Ships caught in it had their shields overloaded. Stations were losing life support. And the evacuation was falling apart because coalition and human forces didn't trust each other. "This is Commander Jin-ho to all vessels," he broadcast. "I don't care what flag you fly. Help with the evacuation. We sort out politics after everyone is safe." On the other side of the system, Dong-woo faced the same situation. He was there on a diplomatic mission, not a military one. His small fleet of 3 ships wasn't enough to evacuate everyone. He heard Jin-ho's broadcast and made a decision that probably ended his career. "This is strategist Dong-woo. All coalition vessels coordinate with human forces. Save lives first. For the next 10 hours, enemies work together. Human ships carried coalition civilians to safety. Coalition ships protected human evacuation craft from radiation. Medical bays on both sides treated whoever needed help regardless of species. Sang-min was there with his strike team. They had been planning a raid on a coalition supply depot. Instead, they found themselves pulling survivors from a collapsing station. One of the survivors was a young WarHFY child, maybe 6 years old, crying for her parents. Sang-min carried the child to a medical ship. He stayed with her until they found her parents alive on another vessel. The child's mother stared at him in confusion. She had been told humans were monsters. "Thank you," she whispered. Sang-min just nodded and went back to help more people. This wasn't war. This was just what decent people did. Mi-sun worked in a temporary medical center set up on a partially damaged station. Wounded came in constantly. Human and coalition mixed together. She moved between them, deciding who needed help most urgently. A human soldier with a broken leg could wait. A Krill civilian with internal bleeding could not. A coalition medic worked beside her, a young man who had initially refused to help humans. But after watching Mi-sun for an hour, seeing her treat everyone the same, he couldn't maintain his hatred. "Why do you do this?" he asked. "We're enemies." "Right now, we're just medics," Mi-sun said, not looking up from her work. "War stops when people are dying. Help me with this one. He's bleeding badly." Together, they saved the WarHFY soldier's life. Afterward, the coalition medic looked at his hands covered in blood that could have been from anyone. "I don't understand you people," he said. "Good," Mi-sun replied. "We don't understand us either. We just do what seems right." Dongwoo and Sang-min ended up in the same room by accident. Both were exhausted, taking a short break from rescue operations. They recognized each other immediately. Each had studied the other's tactics and strategies. "Strategist Dongwoo," Sang-min said. "Commander Sang-min." Dongwoo sat down heavily. "Your raid on Velthus was brilliant. I'm still trying to figure out how you escaped. Your defense of the Quark system was impressive. You predicted every move we made." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the rescue operations continued. Human and coalition working together, temporarily forgetting they were supposed to be killing each other. "This is stupid," Dongwoo said finally. "This whole war is stupid." "Yes," Sang-min agreed. "But necessary, is it? Look at what's happening out there. We can work together. We can save each other's lives." "Why are we fighting?" "Because you erased us from history. Because you need to remember what you did to us. Because if we don't fight, it happens again." Dongwoo thought about that. "I didn't know. Most coalition citizens didn't know. We were lied to by leaders 3,000 years dead. And when this war ends," Sang-min asked, "will you teach the truth? Will there be monuments to the humans who died in the dispersion? Will coalition children learn about what their ancestors did to us?" "I don't know," Dongwoo said honestly. "I don't control what gets taught. That's why we fight." The evacuation took 30 hours total. 23,000 people were saved, human and coalition both. Only 47 died, mostly from injuries that were already fatal before help arrived. When it was over, both fleets separated again. But something had changed. Soldiers who had saved each other's lives now had to go back to shooting at each other. It felt wrong. Footage of the evacuation spread across the galaxy even faster than the battle footage had. People saw enemies working together. They saw human soldiers carrying coalition children. They saw coalition medics treating human wounded. They saw what cooperation looked like. The protests grew larger. On the coalition capital, 1 million people gathered outside the council building. They demanded peace talks. They demanded truth about the dispersion. They demanded an end to the war. Tae-sung was there recording everything. He had become famous, the historian who exposed ancient lies. Now he was a voice for peace, speaking at rallies and writing articles that appeared across every platform. "This war started because of lies," he told crowds. "It continues because of pride. But we saw at Paxlar what's possible. We saw humans and coalition saving each other. That's who we really are. Not the lies our ancestors told. Not the hate we carry. We're people who help when others need it." But the war didn't stop. Too much blood had been spilled. Too many had died. Both sides felt they couldn't back down without dishonoring the dead. Then Jin-ho faced a choice that changed everything. His fleet caught a coalition medical ship trying to reach a forward base. The ship had no weapons, no shields. It was completely helpless. According to the rules of war, Jin-ho could destroy it. Military supplies often traveled on medical ships. It could be a legitimate target. His officers argued for destroying it. It's probably carrying weapons, one said, or troops disguised as wounded. Jinho thought about Misun treating coalition wounded. He thought about the child Sangmin had saved. He thought about what humanity was supposed to be fighting for. Scan the ship, he ordered. Thoroughly. The scans showed it was exactly what it claimed to be. Medical supplies, doctors, and wounded soldiers. Nothing else. Let it pass, Jinho said. Commander? His second officer looked shocked. We should at least board it. Verify the scans. No, let it pass. And broadcast why we're doing it. Jinho's face appeared on every screen in the system. This is Commander Jinho of the human fleet. We could destroy the coalition medical ship in our sights, but we won't. We fight to prove we're not monsters. We fight to be remembered as people, not myths. So let this be remembered too. We showed mercy when we didn't have to. The message spread across the galaxy within hours. A human commander in the middle of a brutal war had spared his enemies. It seemed impossible. It seemed unwarlike. But it was the most human thing Jinho had ever done. Wusung was recovering from his wounds on a human medical station when he heard about Jinho's decision. He was furious at first. We're losing people every day and he lets enemies go. But Misun, changing his bandages, disagreed. He reminded everyone why we're fighting. Not to be cruel. Not to be feared. To be respected. To be remembered as people who could choose mercy. Mercy doesn't win wars, Wusung said. No, Misun agreed. But maybe it ends them. 3 days after Jinho spared the medical ship, a coalition commander named Haiwan did something similar. Her fleet surrounded a damaged human supply ship. She could have destroyed it or captured it. Instead, she gave them supplies to repair their engines and let them go. Why? Her officers asked. Because Jinho showed us what humanity is capable of, Haiwan said. The good and the bad. If they can show mercy, so can we. More incidents followed. A human fighter pilot who ejected over a coalition planet was found and returned unharmed. A coalition landing party, trapped behind human lines, was given food and medical supplies before being escorted back. Small gestures, but each one was recorded, broadcast, discussed. The galaxy was seeing a different kind of war. The neutral station called Last Hope floated in empty space between coalition and human territory. It had been built specifically for these peace talks. Neither side wanted to meet on the other's ground. This empty place was the compromise. Tae-sung arrived first with the coalition delegation. He wasn't officially a negotiator, but both sides wanted him there. He was the historian who had uncovered the truth. His presence gave the talks legitimacy. The station was simple and functional. A round table sat in the center of a large room with windows looking out at stars. No decorations, no symbols of power. Just a table and chairs where enemies could talk. Yuri led the human delegation. She arrived with a team of advisors and historians. Jinho came too, though he wasn't officially negotiating. He was there as a reminder of what war cost. His scarred face told a story without words. The coalition sent their best diplomats, but they also sent Haiwan and Dongwu, soldiers and strategists who had fought the war and knew its reality. They weren't there to play political games. They were there to end the killing. The first day was difficult. Both sides had demands. Both sides had grievances. Both sides had lost so much that backing down felt like betraying the dead. We want Sector 12, Yuri began. All 17 systems. They were human territory before the dispersion. Impossible, a coalition diplomat replied. Billions of people live there now. We can't just displace them. Your ancestors displaced billions of humans, Yuri said coldly. Why is it different now? Because we're trying to be better than our ancestors, Tae-sung said quietly. That's the whole point, isn't it? The room went silent. Tae-sung stood up, his tablet in hand. I've spent 3 years studying what happened 3,000 years ago. I've read every document, every fragment, every hidden file. Want to know what I learned? The people who ordered the dispersion were scared. They saw humans expanding into space and panicked. They thought humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too difficult to control, so they decided to eliminate the problem. He looked around the table. They were wrong. But they're long dead. We're not here to punish dead people. We're here to decide what living people do next. Jinho leaned forward. What are you suggesting? Compromise, Tae-sung said. Not because either side deserves it, but because continuing this war helps no one. The galaxy has seen human courage. They've seen human mercy. They've seen the truth about the dispersion. Isn't that what you wanted? To be remembered? To be acknowledged? You've achieved that. At a terrible price, Jinho said quietly. Yes, and the price keeps rising every day the war continues. Yuri shook her head. You're asking us to give up our claims to our home, to accept less than what we deserve. I'm asking you to accept what's possible, Taesung said. You can't bring back the dead. You can't undo 3,000 years, but you can build something new. The negotiations dragged on for days. Both sides argued over every detail. Territory, reparations, public apologies, historical records. Everything was fought over, debated, calculated. Sang-min attended some sessions. He listened to politicians argue about border systems and trade rights. It felt distant from the reality of war. Politicians talked about sectors and resources. Soldiers talked about friends who died. On the third day, he found Dongwu in an observation room staring out at the stars. I keep thinking about Paxillar, Dongwu said. How easy it was to work together when politics weren't involved. We just helped people. Why can't it always be that simple? Because people need stories, Sang-min said. They need to believe they're fighting for something important. When the emergency was over, we went back to our stories. Coalition Defender, Human Avenger, the roles we're supposed to play. What if we wrote new stories? That's what we're trying to do here. But stories are hard to change, especially ones written in blood. They stood together in silence, two warriors tired of war. Outside the window, a coalition patrol ship passed by a human escort vessel. They didn't fire at each other. They just maintained distance, professional and wary. It's already changing, Dongwu said. Look at them. A month ago, they would have shot on sight. Now they're just doing their jobs. Maybe that's how peace starts. Not with big declarations, but with small moments where we choose not to kill each other. Back in the negotiation room, Haewon was arguing with a coalition diplomat who wanted to give humans nothing. You don't understand, she said. I've fought them. I've seen what they're capable of. If we don't give them something real, something meaningful, this war starts again. Maybe not today, maybe not for years. But it comes back, and next time we might not survive it. You're exaggerating, the diplomat said. Am I? They've lost this war by every military measure. They're outnumbered, outgunned, running out of supplies. And they're still fighting. Still costing us ships and lives. What happens when they rebuild? When they come back with more ships, more anger, more determination? We win by making them partners, not by crushing them. Jinho had been listening. He spoke up for the first time that day. She's right. Humanity will never forget what happened to us. The question is whether we remember it as a wound that healed or a wound that festered. That choice is being made here. On the fifth day, Mi-sun was invited to speak. She wasn't a diplomat or a soldier of high rank. She was just a medic who had treated everyone the same, but her testimony mattered. I've saved both human and coalition lives, she said. I've held hands while people died, regardless of what species they were. Pain sounds the same in every language. Fear looks the same in every eye. The wounded don't care about politics or history. They just want to live. She looked directly at Yuri. Ambassador, I understand your anger. I lost family in the dispersion too. My grandfather's grandfather died on a colony ship that was destroyed. But I've also lost patients during this war. Good people who died for revenge, for pride, for abstract ideas about honor. At some point we have to decide if more death serves any purpose. It serves memory, Yuri said, but her voice was softer. It makes sure we're never forgotten again. The galaxy will never forget us now, Mi-sun replied. Every species knows about humans, about our history, about what we can do. We've written ourselves into galactic history with our courage and our mercy. Isn't that enough? The turning point came on the sixth day. Coalition leaders, pressured by massive protests on their worlds, offered a compromise. Sector 12 would be designated a joint territory. Humans would have sovereignty over 3 systems, including the one containing Earth. The other systems would remain coalition, but with significant human populations given full rights and representation. Reparations would be paid over 50 years. Most importantly, the dispersion would be formally acknowledged as genocide, and monuments would be built on every coalition world to remember human victims. It wasn't everything humans wanted, but it was real. It was acknowledgement. It was remembrance. Jinho looked at the proposal for a long time. Around him, his advisors argued. Some said it wasn't enough. Others said it was all they could get. Yuri remained silent, her face unreadable. "What do you think?" Jinho asked her finally. "I think our ancestors would want us to keep fighting until we had everything back," Yuri said. "But our ancestors are dead. We have to think about the humans who are still alive, the ones who will be born tomorrow. What kind of galaxy do we want them to live in?" "One where we're remembered," Jinho said. "We've achieved that. The question is whether we want to be remembered only as warriors or as something more." Jinho thought about the medical ship he had spared, about the coalition child Sangmin had saved, about Misun treating everyone with the same care, about Heiwan letting his supply ship go. "We accept," he said. The formal signing took place 3 days later. Representatives from both sides put their marks on documents that ended 14 months of war. 43,000 humans had died, over 200,000 coalition soldiers. Civilian casualties on both sides approached 500,000. It was victory for no one and survival for everyone. Taesung watched the signing and started writing. Someone needed to record this honestly, not as coalition propaganda or human triumph, but as what it really was. A ugly, necessary war that ended when both sides chose peace over pride. After the signing, people didn't leave immediately. They stood around in small groups talking quietly. Enemies becoming something else. Not friends, not yet, but not enemies anymore either. Wu Sung found himself talking to a coalition officer about battlefield tactics. They discussed strategy and mistakes, professional respect replacing hatred. Sangmin and Dongwu sat in a corner, playing a game Dongwu had brought. It was called chess, an ancient human game about strategy and sacrifice. "Your people invented this?" Dongwu asked, moving a piece. "Thousands of years ago," Sangmin said. "We've always been good at thinking about war. Maybe you can teach us to be good at thinking about peace." Heiwan found Jinho standing alone by a window, looking out at the stars. She stood beside him for a moment before speaking. "I'm sorry," she said, "for my part in this. For the people who died under my command." "I'm sorry too," Jinho replied. "War doesn't have innocent commanders. We both did what we thought was right."